Hello. Welcome to 5 tips for preparing an oboe concerto with orchestra. My name is Erin Brophy. I am the principal oboe player of the Saskatoon Symphony and a sessional lecturer at the University of Saskatchewan. I'm also the director of a program called the Oboe Path. The reason I'm doing these Facebook Lives and YouTube Lives is because I had a lot of trouble learning the oboe as I was starting out on my journey on the instrument. I'm from a very small and remote place in northern Canada. And when I started on the oboe, I had access to wonderful musicians who were very encouraging, but no one who played the oboe. The closest professional oboe player was about 452 kilometers from my house. And because I didn't have access to good information, good instrument and good reads, I really struggled on the instrument. It was something that I knew I needed to sound better, but I had no idea how to do it. And I really loved the oboe, but I became very close to not continuing with the instrument because it felt too hard. And that's why I'm doing these lives, is that I don't want to the oboe to be the challenge for others that it was for me. I think with access to good information, it makes a really big difference on the path and the journey of an oboe player. The Oboe Path, a program that I direct, uses a group online masterclass, one-on-one feedback, and a personalized, customized plan to help an oboist play with joy and ease. Watching their peers of community and a community of like-minded oboe players improve helps my Oboe Path participants to stay motivated to practice. With the customized personal plan, they are able to practice with clarity and see the results immediately. With the laser one-on-one feedback, they don't waste their practice time, and so oboe can fit into their busy and full lives. Let's get to it. 5 tips for playing an oboe concerto with orchestra. So I'm actually doing that this week. I'm playing a concerto with the Saskatoon Symphony this week. Actually, tonight is the dress rehearsal. I'm really excited to get a chance to stand out in front of the orchestra. I love playing in orchestra, but it is really fun to get the opportunity to be the soloist. So I thought I'd share some things that I've learned. I've done this a number of times in my career. And if you have the opportunity to play with an orchestra, take it. It's so fun. So here are the 5 tips that I would say. Tip number 1 is you need to study the score. You need to look at the orchestral score and listen to it with a recording and understand how your part fits in with the other parts. That's going to help you greatly in your very first rehearsal, knowing when to come in and when not to. It's not enough to just know your solo line. You have to know what everyone else in the orchestra is doing and how there is an interaction between the parts. So spending some time with score study, taking a look at the score, making notes to yourself, taking elements from the score and writing it into your part to help you sort of navigate how the music is interactive, goes a long way towards providing a profound experience for your audience, which is, our job. Tip number 2 is to practice the tricky bits. This may seem obvious, but when we're practicing, we don't want to just play the concerto from beginning to end, but identify the parts that are technically challenging to you. With every concerto I've ever played, there's a bit of it that when I start to prepare that concerto, I can't play it. So I spend a lot of time pulling apart the music and understanding how I can get my fingers or my tongue or my ear or whatever it is that's a challenge about that particular bit, so that I can start to play it with ease. One of the ways I do that is I use a little note to myself of this is the part from, say, measure 18 to 35. I'm going to practice that at a very, very slow tempo and get to know it really, really well. Tip number 3 is kind of connected to tip number 2, is that run throughs at a certain point when you're playing a concerto, preparing a concerto. You need to work on your stamina, because the amount of playing that is required for a concerto is different from having to just sit in the orchestra. Just the sheer number of minutes and how much the instrument is on your face is different. And so incorporating run throughs in your practice preparation will make a big difference towards you being able to play the piece from beginning to end with the control that you would like. Now, that being said, that those run throughs also allow you to go through the music that you may not be working on a very specific manner. So the tricky bits, you're going to know very, very intimately because you will have played slow. But there's often parts of the concerto that you can just play. You don't actually need to practice them. You can just play them. So that's what the run-throughs are for, is for you to continue to have experience with that part that you don't have to, say, for example, practice, but running through it will give you a better overall view of the piece of music that you're performing. Tip number 4 in preparation for playing with orchestra is actually to play through the orchestral part quite a lot with a rehearsal pianist. So hiring someone to learn the score, or if there's a piano reduction to the concerto, learn the piano reduction so that you can practice performing with the harmonies. You can practice performing with another musician. It's an excellent way to catch any holes in your preparation in terms of your rhythmic preparation or understanding the harmony, where you might be sitting in tuning. Of course, the tuning is different when you play with orchestra, because the piano is inherently a little bit out of tune because of the tuning system the piano uses. But it does give you an idea of some of the harmonies that you're going to be playing with. I know for myself, the first time this particular concerto I'm playing tonight, I played it with a pianist. I had a different phrasing image in mind. I had studied the score, I'd listened to it a lot, but it wasn't until I bashed through it with another musician that I truly understood harmonically what I wanted the piece to sound like. So I would highly recommend rehearsing with a pianist. The 5th tip I would say about preparing a concerto to play with orchestra is, if you are a reed maker, an oboe reed maker, is make a lot of reeds. That seems obvious. But in the weeks leading up to the concerto, what I would suggest is make a reed, break it in so that it feels really nicely broken in, and then put it in your reed case. And do that for the weeks leading up, so that if you've made 5 or 6 reeds in the weeks, each week leading up to the concerto, that you have some really comfortable broken in reeds sitting in your reed case. Of course, you're going to make reeds the week that you are performing that concerto, but having that backlog of 5 or 6 reeds, this concerto that I'm playing, I have 3 performances, so I want to have 3 really solid reeds in my case that I can use to play the concert on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. And having a backlog of reeds that I can sort of rely upon in case something happens in my reed making this performance week has helped me feel a lot more relaxed about the actual performance. I did make reeds this week, and I used those reeds to do the rehearsals. And I'm going to break in a new reed tonight at the dress rehearsal. And so going into the concerts tomorrow and the next day and the day after that, I have many to choose from. And that just helps me feel a lot more relaxed. So thinking about your reed making in your preparation for the concerto can have a really great effect on your nerves, right? For the preparation of the performance. Now, if you're not a reed maker and you get your reeds from another reed maker, what I would suggest is having 4 or 5 new reeds that you've broken in, so that you've played maybe 45 minutes on each one of them, so that you feel like they're a broken in reed, so that you would feel comfortable playing it with orchestra. I think that will go a long way to, of course, you will have had reads that you've been practicing on, but thinking of going into the performance with a good number of reads in your read case that you feel could be a concert read options. That's something that's particular to the oboe, is that we have to think about how we want to make our reads last. And if you can avoid the situation of going into a concert thinking this reed is dead, that's something that can be stressful and maybe not lead to the kind of performance that you are hoping for. But having some really beautiful, comfortable reeds goes a long way towards making sure that the audience has a wonderful experience, and so do you. I hope that you have found these tips helpful. And if you have, please send me a message. If you have any questions, please send me a message. If you would like to talk about the oboe path, I am in the DMs. Just send me a message and we can chat. Thank you very much, and play the oboe with joy and ease. Let's all become the oboists that everyone wants to play with. Take care and be well.